Hello, BookTube. I've got a little bit of mail for you today on a warm, bright spring day here in Boston. A wonderful, warm spring Tuesday. I'm trying to get the long walk and a bunch of errands and maybe some videos done early before the heat of the day builds in, when it really won't be any good for anything except just relaxing. Of course, you're not going to be relaxing if you engage in one of the biggest tourist attractions of New England, which is seasonal leaf changing. Leaf peeping, as it's referred to. We are a destination for nearby states because the foliage turns here magnificently. The foliage turn this year is all the more magnificent because of the fact that in the calendar year of 2024, it has not rained anywhere in the United States east of the Rockies, and is not going to rain. There are no meteorological conditions that would even be conducive to a small shower between now and the end of the year anywhere east of the Rockies. So this is not a drought. This is a mega drought, a mega, almost unprecedented drought with no end in sight. That does make the leaves prettier, though, at least this time around. The only thing that you have to be aware of is if you are going leaf peeping in New England, make sure that you have a wide-brimmed hat with an attachment that covers the back of your neck so that you don't get really bad sunburn. Make sure that you don't leaf peep between the hours of 11 and 3, regardless of what precautions you take, regardless if you're in an air-conditioned car. Between the hours of 11 and 3, you really should not be active. It's just too hot in this part of the world. And also, you should go on the U.S. government's website and familiarize yourself with the early symptoms of heat stroke and heat strain. Because that can happen even if, in this kind of weather, that can happen even if you're being cautious. These are just some of the things that you have to think about for late October in New England. You just have to do that. And make sure to put sunblock on your arms and the parts of your legs that are not covered by your shorts. Make sure also to put sunblock on the tops of your feet. A lot of people forget that in late October in New England. They've got sandals on, of course, because this is an extremely arid tropical location. But at the tops of your feet, people often forget that, and the sun will just burn them if you don't. So just a few precautions if you're coming to look at the foliage here in New England in the year 2024. You have to take a lot of precautions against extreme heat exhaustion. But the mail still comes. the mail still arrives. We have 4 packages here that we can do. No manila. They're all white envelopes, so they might all be from the same publisher. They're all different sizes, and there are no boxes. So we'll just see. We'll see what we have here. Let's see what the first one is. Okay. Let's see here. We got some schmutz on this. This is 2025. I imagine all of these things will be 2025. Do you have a sheet for me, my dear? No, you do not. Okay. This is a novel. This is by Yuko Tsushima, translated by Lisa Hoffman-Kuroda, and it's called Wildcat Dome. Once again, a little bit worrying. Better than 50% of the covers that we have seen for U.S. books in 2025 have gone back to pre-2023 utterly hideous covers. That's worrying. I hope that's not true. So this comes out in March, and it is called An Epic Novel of Post-War Japan. Okay, it's 250 pages long, so it's not an epic novel. But we do have a description on the inside here. You call yourself an epic novel again. You're 270 pages long. Okay. Let's see here. Mitch and Yonko haven't spoken in a year. As children, they were inseparable, raised together in an orphanage outside Tokyo, but ever since the sudden death of Mitch's brother, they've been mourning in their private ways, worlds apart. In the aftermath of the Fukushima nuclear catastrophe, they choose to reunite, finding each other in a city undone by disaster. They have drifted apart, but they will always be bound together, because long ago they witnessed an unspeakable tragedy, a tragedy that they've kept secret for their entire lives. They never speak of it, but it's all around them. Like history, it repeats itself. The author's sweeping and consuming final novel is a metaphysical saga of post-war Japan, a hugely ambitious exploration of denial of the ways in which countries and citizens avoid telling the truth, a tale of guilt, loss, and inevitable reckoning. And Yuko Tsushima died in 2016. Okay, so what about the translator? The translator was born in Tokyo and raised in Texas. Oh, she translated Akutagawa's Kappa from last year, which I thought was wonderful. I loved it. I love the job she did, too. Oh, great. Okay, great. All right, so this comes out next year. A novel that's going to feature Fukushima. I don't think I've read many of those. Japanese fiction from an author, a posthumous publication in the United States market. All right, let's see what this next one is. Finished copy. This one might be this year. Oh my. Okay. Yeah, this is mid-November. This is The Ultimate Hidden Truth of the World by David Graeber. So another posthumous book. Yes. Yes. This is David Graeber was one half of the team that wrote The Dawn of Everything, a new history of the world it got hugely widely reviewed, and a lot of people thought about it and talked about it, pondered on it even, although I have warned you many times, don't ever ponder. Don't ever use the word in your prose, and especially don't ever do it in your real life. Don't ever ponder. Thinking's good enough. Pondering means you're staring at your own navel. I thought The Dawn of Everything was fascinating. I loved it. I read it a couple of times. Never did get the finished copy from the publisher, but I loved it. And the reason that I didn't review it, those were complicated. I had a reviewer in mind, a reviewer sort of on the hook for it. I was reeling them in, and at the last minute they didn't do it, and then it was too late. I thought it was a fascinating book and wrong in almost every one of its presuppositions, almost every one of its arguments, almost all of its examples. To me, it was a pure example. The book itself, big thing, like 800 pages long, was a pure example of the fun of nonfiction. An element that I mentioned in my Nonfiction November video this year, and a lot of you questioned that. A lot of you wrote and said, "Oh, come on, fun." One of you wrote, well, oh, King Tentacle, maybe the reason you consider nonfiction to be fun is because you already know everything. But what about those of us who don't? I trust you. Trust me, I don't know everything. But The Dawn of Everything was meant to be contentious and was completely wrong. It was Howard Zinn levels of systematic wrong. But he's dead. Yes? Yeah, he died in 2020. Okay, so this is, for more than 2 decades of path-breaking writing, the iconic and best-selling David Graeber's most important essays and interviews. No offense to the benighted shade, but I doubt there are any essays in here. This is probably just book reviews. Let's see here. The ultimate hidden truth of the world is that it is something that we make and could just as easily make differently, wrote David Graeber, the renowned anthropologist, activist, and author of such classics book as Debt. He was well-known for his sharp, lively essays as he was for his iconic role in the Occupy movement and his paradigm-shifting tomes. There are converging political, economic, and ecological crises, yet our politics is dominated by either business as usual or nostalgia for a mythical past. Thinking against the grain, Graeber was one of the few who dared to imagine a new understanding of the past and a liberatory vision of the future. To imagine a social order based on humans' fundamental freedom. Okay, all right. I'm pretty sure that liberatory should be liberating. I'm pretty sure I don't like the word liberatory. But anyway, in essays published over 3 decades and ranging widely across the biggest issues of our time, inequality, technology, the identity of the West, democracy, art, power, anger, mutual aid, and protest, he challenges the old assumptions about political life. Okay, well, this comes out in late November. Oh, that's great. I don't have an advance copy for it, but I will definitely write about it. I feel when you review books for a living, especially if you're prolific at it, you're really bothered by the ones that got away, the big ones, the ones that caught on with the popular imagination that you didn't actually write about. Now that I have my literary blog, Steve Reads, is back up and running, and also now that I've fully come into the realization that Open Letters Review is anything that we want it to be, I can review paperbacks, which means that if the world history book I don't know if it's come out as a paperback yet. I'm just off the radar for that book. I got the advance copy and nothing else. No hardcover, no notifications of the paperback. But if it comes out in a new paperback or a commemorative paperback, I can take a whack at it then. But there's something missing when you don't do it in the huge chorus. You want to be part of the chorus. Even if you're a tiny voice, you want to be part of that initial huge chorus that's reviewing things on the fly, that's thinking about them in the actual moment. And I didn't do that for The Dawn of Everything. When you're a reviewer, that always bugs you. I didn't do that. I let it go by. I don't so much mind when that moment goes by for novels, because who cares about novels? But when it's a nonfiction work, that bugs me. So what is this next one? Oh, it's a lot of things. There's a lot of things in here. Oh, so this is going to be a big mail haul. Okay, well, that's just points of view. So what have we got here? What is this? Why are we getting so many things here? Okay, we have 3 things here. 3 books. What are they? The Book of Exercises 2 by George Seferis, translated from the Greek by Jennifer Kellogg. You can't really see this, but this is a tough, tightly bound, sort of textury cover. What is this? Who is this? World Poetry. The first English translation of legendary Greek poet George Seferis' lesser-known political, satiric, and erotic poetry, as well as previously unseen material from his diaries. Okay, all right, but what are you? What are you? World Poetry Books. Oh, no, that's just the publisher. World Poetry Books. Okay. All right, fantastic. Oh, my. Look at this. It's bilingual. The Greek on one side and the English on the other. Oh, wow. How weird. Okay, what's this next one? Mario Dell'Arco, Days Last Forever, translated from the Romanesco by Mark Allen DiMartino. The first English-language collection of post-war poet Mario Dell'Arco's most significant voice in modern Roman dialect poetry after Belli and Trilussa. As a blurb from Pasolini. Okay, that's a cactus on the cover there. Wow, and this is also bilingual. How incredible. Wow, okay, well, well, I have a poetry guy. I know he does contemporary poetry. He does a real good job on contemporary poetry. What are these things? Well, he even has an illustration there of the author, I assume. Yeah. Well, I mean, he's a poetry guy. I'm going to put them in the pile. I'll put him in his next package, and we'll see what he does. What's the last one? Oh. Okay, I won't put all of them in a package. What on earth? What? This... Okay, I don't know much about these first 2. This third one I know backwards and forwards. I'm amazed. I am just amazed. The third one is Boethius. This is the poems from the Consolation of Philosophy, his great work, translated by Peter Glasgold. What on earth? What on earth? Okay. Boethius' ancient Latin classic has been translated into every stage of the English language, from old to middle to modern, and Peter Glasgold's collaged renderings of the poems reflects its history as much as they make it new. What is a collaged rendering of a poem? I have no idea. But it's not ancient, right? It's not. Well, if you're gonna call Homer and Virgil ancient, anyway. Writing in prison, Boethius, a philosopher of late antiquity who served the king of the Ostrogoths, explores why bad things happen to good people. The universal resonance of the question provided on the Consolation of Philosophy with an unmatched translation pedigree. It was Englished by Alfred the Great, Chaucer, and Queen Elizabeth I, among others. Peter Glasgow's gorgeous translingual renderings of the Latin poetry from the book refashioned the originals of their English and rephrasing into a composition of lower limit speech, upper limit music, letting the reader overhear, in snatches, how Boethius was received over the ages. Okay, so is he incorporating various lines of other translations? Is that it? Is he? Uh, okay. Well, you've got the Latin on one side, and then much earlier Chaucer level English on the other, and we've got Latin, and then Chaucerian English, and then a block way up there, a block of contemporary English in italics. Sometimes intimately near and clear, sometimes estranged and distanced by older linguistic forms, Glasgold's experiment shows that abstract sound poetry of the avant-garde, God help us all, can be reconceived historically as philology. Okay. In poetry, it is incomprehension that is the mother of beauty. No. No. That's not true. That line was the death of poetry as an actual commercial genre. That very line, it's wonderfully written. It sums some things up perfectly. In poetry, it is incomprehension. It is the mother of beauty. No. No. That is the exact opposite of true. That's the line that modern poetry has sold for since 1959. But that, just because they sold it to a whole bunch of suckers, doesn't make it true. Don't tell me that you're going to modern poetry. Well, no, you're not going to modern poetry, Boethius, because you get huge chunks of this thing are not in English. Oh, this is fascinating. Oh, I will delve into this. It's got a nice long forward and a nice long introduction too. All right, well, this one, Boethius is not going to my poetry guy. Sorry. How fascinating. World poetry comes through with a win. And then we'll do this last package here. Sorry for any minute shaking of the camera. That would be the Bean, who is over on the bed and is very itchy because it's incredibly hot. So she gets itchy when it's incredibly hot. All right, what is this? Oh, we've got more books. Oh, you're kidding me. Is this more of world poetry? Yes, it is. Goodness gracious. Okay, hang on just a second here. Is that what you are? Are you more of world poetry? No, you're called winter editions, but it's obviously the same people. Same size, same stiff binding and everything. Okay, well, let's explore together. I got 3 more little books. Obviously from the same people. First one is The Everyday Life of Design by Alan Gilbert. And what have we got here? Alan Gilbert's The Everyday Life of Design is a brilliant bricolage of life's endless repetitions. These poems amuse and terrify as they slow down the blink of perception. All right, you're going to my poetry guy, definitely. But is this a reprint? Are you too cool for school that you won't give me publication date? Oh, no, it's on the back. Okay, this is Winter Editions, Brooklyn, New York. There were 850 copies made of this book. Okay, so we have The Everyday Life of Design by Alan Gilbert. That's poetry. Then we have Betsy Fagan, Fires Seen from Space. This, I think, is just a slim volume of poetry. Her third volume of poetry. Dwells, you shouldn't do that either. You shouldn't ponder. Either in your prose or in real life, you must not ponder and you must not dwell. Don't dwell either. Live is fine. You don't dwell anywhere in your poetry, in your prose, and especially don't dwell in real life. Don't do either one of those things. Her poems dwell in the interstices of profound grief and abject wonder, softening into the complexities of human-driven extinction in search of what refuge remains for life in the Pyrocene. Straight to the poetry guy. And then what's this last one? Carla Kelsey, Transcendental Factory for Mina Loy. Okay, well this isn't poems because it's prose. Probably this book is going to tell me that it's poems anyway. Transcendental Factory invites us into a gorgeous experience of intimacy, introducing us to an azure blue glass gem enamel. Mina Loy, the way she had often thought of herself, a form of glass, refractory, illuminated by the sun. This is a novel. Okay, all right, great. This is a novel of the narrators being present to the figure, Mina Loy, through the evidence of the archive. And it is a work of what's missing of life, story, and art, which the documents of the archive attest to. Oh my, oh goodness, that sentence. Oh my. It is also a feminist critique of the systems of valuation through which much of Loy's art disappears. Through the imbrications of life story, art, object, temporality, and site, including the archival site in which the living poet-novelist labors, lyric imagination and critical art practice meet in a magisterial testimony of affinity, grieving, and the connection to what remains and what furthers. Okay, well, that's not cover copy. That's actually provided, a blurb, whatever language that is, by someone named Carla Harriman. So this is not poetry. I might slip it in the package to the poetry guy anyway. It's close enough. Or maybe I'll do it myself. It is maybe some kind of historical fiction. So there you go. Wow. All right. So a lot of these things came from, I think, the same publisher. They just are winter editions and world poetry from the same people. I'm going to have to dig in and find out. They certainly seem like they are. So that batch there was about half this email. So we got essays by David Graeber, nonfiction pieces, maybe a lot for the New York Review of Books. We got a novel, a posthumous novel coming out from Japan in the next year, and then a bunch of these things, a bunch of these new translations. The Boethius thing doesn't even seem like a translation. It seems like something else, something more inventive even than a translation, but I'll take it, definitely. So there you go. That's the mail. I'm sorry to be constantly looking over my shoulder, but it is going to get awful hot today. I want to make sure that I've got all the windows and everything closed in this room to try to cut down on cataclysmic amounts of noise from outside. I'm hoping that it's working. I'm in a corner, which I'm hoping is funneling sound at this computer instead of frittering away into jackhammers and warplanes and sirens, of endless sirens. But I am looking over my shoulder because in order to block out that sound, I have to close the window, and that is going to superheat the room, which is a danger that you have to think about in late October in Boston. You definitely have to think about overheating and all that goes with it. Yep. The one upside to the fact that the climate of the world is irretrievably broken. The one little upside is that I went through a huge amount of the usual spasm of spring cleaning months ago. Hauled out all the blankets, hauled out all of the heavy-duty comforters, hauled out all of the sweatshirts, laundered them all. There was a huge pile in the laundry pantry where I was just going through one thing after another, one load of laundry after another, and then folded them neatly and put them on shelves of a bookcase, the only shelves that I had available. And I now see that need not be. It pains my soul to see anything but books on bookshelves. And now I know that I don't need to bother with it. They're all clean. I can put them in a hamper and just leave them there because I don't need them and I'm not going to need them. But that's not much of an upside. But anyway, that's the mail for today. I will wrap this up for now. I'm hoping that I am audible, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.